This is 11:05. Hello everyone, salam, namaste, adab, and welcome to today's event. Today we are going to hear very senior journalist, Ziya Us Salam Sahab, on Babri, Gyanvapi, and Places of Worship Act. Of Babri, Gyanvapi, and Places of Worship Act. Ziya Us Salam Sahab is a very well-known figure in the discipline of journalism. He is the associate editor of the Hindu. He is a author of many books. He is a columnist and public intellectual. His one book, which I couldn't mention, somehow I missed it. This poster is really making a lot of impact, or people are getting to know about it. That is Being Muslim in Hindu India. The other books are Till Talaq Do Us Part, Inside the Tablighi Jamaat, Women in Masjid, Shaheen Bagh, Lynch Files, and of Saffron, Flags, and Skullcaps. He will be formally introduced by a very senior other journalist, Anand Mishraji, who is a political editor of Frontline, a very well-known, respected magazine from the Hindu group. He is a veteran journalist, and the concluding remarks will be given by another very well-known, respected senior journalist, Rashid Khadwai Saab, who is an author and political analyst also. He was a visiting fellow with the Observer Research Foundation, former associate editor of Telegraph. So welcome you all, and now I invite Anand Mishraji for the formal introductory remarks.
Thank you, Raji Saab. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and also good morning, because it's 9:30 p.m. in India. It's time that most of us go for dinner, and some of us also retire to bed. And I believe it's 11 a.m. in the morning for the US. So all of us have gathered from two different time zones to discuss some of very important issues which are making a lot of noise and impact in the Indian landscape. So 32 years after Babri Mosque demolition in December 1992, the issue is back in focus again in India with the Ram Temple consecration event, which the ruling BJP is projecting in a big way ahead of next general elections, which are just 2 months away. And the issue is not confined to only Ram Mandir, but also Gyanvapi. So recently, the High Court, Allahabad High Court, has permitted worship there in the southern cellar of the mosque. The Shringar Gauri worship they had permitted, despite the Places of Worship Act being in practice. And as all of us know, the Places of Worship Act that was brought in 1991, 1 year before the 1992 Babri Mosque demolition. The prime objective of this act was to prevent the recurrence of such disputes in future and maintain the status quo of religious structures as it existed on August 15, 1947. But some legal loopholes are there, and possibly these due to these legal loopholes, the courts are bypassing the Places of Worship Act. Some of the recent court orders have also received much criticism by intellectuals and legal experts. But as it is, the fact is that this political discourse in India is not free of this temple mosque row. And we have with us celebrated author Ziya Us Salam to discuss all the issues today. Salam Sahab is known for taking strong positions on many contentious issues. As is just his recent book, this Being Muslim in Hindu India, is making a lot of catching a lot of eyeballs in Delhi and elsewhere. Before also, he has written books on contentious topics like women in masjid and nikah halala. And yeah, so he has always taken positions on fundamentalist formulations, and he has tried to breach the rigid strictures maintained by fundamentalist forces. So we have, if we look at the recent works of Salam Saab, I mean, he has been an acclaimed film critic, he has been a feature editor, and now he's almost in a full-time book writing, and we believe that we are going to read many more such books on important topics in future. I can go on and on, but I believe that I think the audience would be keen to listen to the author more. So I would just hand over to the mic to Mr. Ziya Us Salam.
Thank you, Anand Saab. Ziya Saab.
Assalamu alaikum, Razi Saab.
Ji,
Thank
now
you
your
for
turn.
hosting today's discussion. And a warm hello to everyone across the world, from people in the US and Canada to those closer home in Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, India, and even China. This confluence of interesting and enlightened minds is possible entirely because of Razi Sahab, his charisma, his vision, and today I am a fortunate collateral beneficiary of that. I hope I'm able to do justice to the occasion. In many ways, one feels happy talking to so many people, maybe most of them like minded. In many other ways, there is a sense of responsibility about the gravity of the situation on hand. I welcome you all, and over next 1 hour or so, as we navigate the pockmarks of India's history, there will be certain unsettling questions, maybe very few answers to them, and maybe they, in a rare case or two, they could be answers as well. But it's important to look the mirror to know just where have we gone wrong. And when I talk of where have we gone wrong in Indian history, should we begin with contemporary times when religion is being used as a political tool for weaponization of a certain political party and aggrandizement of a certain ideology? Or should we go back to medieval times when religion was not always paramount in striking up alliances? What was important at that time was not which faith you followed, but where did you stand with respect to the king? Kingship knew no kinship, as we have all heard and read in our history textbooks, and Aurangzeb, the much maligned or the much hailed Mughal emperor, depending on which side of the political divide you stand, is a shining example of that rule, kingship knowing no kinship. Before we go on and talk about Aurangzeb and Gyanvapi, it's important to understand a couple of things. The first thing is we are here as students of history with no claims to professional expertise on the subject. We are here as students of history as well as contemporary India, where in many ways we are seeing history in a rewind. At another level, it's important to understand what we are talking about today is not about any religion. It is not about Islam. It's not about Hinduism. It's not about a mosque. It's not about a temple. It's about the use of religion by different emperors at various times in history. And today, in contemporary India, where we live in a technical sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, we are virtually living in a one man's rule. There is an emperor who covers everything, who does no wrong, or so we are supposed to believe. Coming directly to today's subject, let's talk of Babri Masjid. How it came about, and what happened in 1949, and ultimately what happened finally in November 2019. Babri Masjid was supposedly built in the 16th century, 1527-28, by Mir Baqi, a general of Babur's army. Babur was the founder of the Mughal dynasty in India. When Babur decided to recount his stay in India in his memoirs, Babur Nama, which were translated with some distinction a few years ago by noted historian Dilip Hero. Baba did not deem it necessary to talk of a masjid named after him. He talked of the grapes of India, he talked of pomegranates of India, and compared them with those in Kabul. He talked of the heat of India and the mountains and plateaus back home. He talked of the poor people in India. He talked of some local kings, Nawabs, and Rajas, and advised Humayun to be on good touch with some of them in North India. Yet, Babur had time for fruits, for climate, for weather, for people, but not for a mosque named after him. Interestingly, Tulsidas walked the same path a little later. When he was putting together his Ramcharitmanas, first in Ayodhya, then in Kashi, he also did not deem it necessary to talk of Babri Masjid or being built at the very site of the birth of Sri Ram thousands of years ago. Nobody probably would have heard of Ram Janambhoomi or even Babri Masjid in the larger context of our country and indeed the world, had it not been for what happened on December 22, 1949. On the night of that day, some idols of Sri Ram were placed inside the masjid. Next day, there was commotion all over. The the district magistrate ordered a status quo. The Babri Masjid was closed. There was no namaz offered in that masjid after that. No Hindu worship offered either. It continued till mid-80s. And that is when the politics comes into play. In 1984, when Indira Gandhi was the Prime Minister of India, the Bharatiya Janata Party was in a fledgling state, merely 4 years old at that time, and struggling to make its mark on India's political map. At that time, there was a Ram Janki Rath Yatra organized from Sitamarhi in Bihar to Delhi. The yatra was supposed to end in October in 1984. It did end in 1984 on the date it was scheduled to be. Unfortunately, for the Vishwa Hindu Parishad, which had organized the yatra from Bihar to Delhi, the next day, Indira Gandhi was assassinated. So all the political windfall which was expected from the yatra was nullified. The nation's attention went to Indira Gandhi, the Prime Minister of India, who was assassinated. Elections were called, and the electorate, almost out of sympathy for the departed Prime Minister, voted in millions for the Congress. The BJP was reduced to 2 seats. Now, the only way forward for the BJP was the way up. When you're almost rock bottom, the only way is to go up. And for that, the Babri Masjid thing was played all over again. The same card came up in 1986 when NDDM in February 1986 ordered the opening of the locks of Babri Masjid for Hindu worship. Once the locks were opened of the Babri Masjid, it emboldened the right-wing political forces that probably Babri Masjid could just be their trump card as they seek to build a temple at the site of Lord Ram's birth. One thing led to another, and all political tools, fair and unfair, were used in the advancement of the BJP and the VHP. Before the 89 elections, attempts were made, some of them successful too, to have a Shilanyas or the foundation stone laying of the Ram temple in Ayodhya. A little later, L.K. Advani was chosen by RSS to lead a Rath Yatra from Somnath to Ayodhya. The choice of the two places was significant. Somnath was a temple which was desecrated in the invasions by Mahmud of Ghazni. And here parallel was drawn with Ayodhya, where Babur is supposed to have demolished a temple to build a mosque. Lal Krishna Advani had copied probably every mantra from the book of Hitler as he hit the road with a vengeance, leaving behind a trail of blood. It was the same trail of blood, the same violence, the same vendetta, which was to power his party to greater heights in the years to come. In December 1992, on 6 December, that is, the Babri Masjid was demolished, brick by brick, stone by stone, dome by dome, as Uma Bharti, Murli Manohar Joshi, and L.K. Advani witnessed the spectacle, which was historic for some, tragic for all those who believed in the idea of India and the rule of law. One right-wing firebrand leader was heard egging the car sevaks on to demolish the Babri Masjid with words in Hindi, Ek dhakka aur do, Babri Masjid tod do. It was a sentence, a remark, which was to leave an imprint on the mind and hearts of car sevaks and many other followers of the BJP in the years to come. In 2019, November 2019, that is, the Supreme Court held the placement of idols inside the Babri Masjid in December 1949, as well as the demolition on December 6, 1992, as an egregious violation of the rule of law. Yet, in its infinite wisdom, the Supreme Court decided that the plot of land of Babri Masjid would be given to those people responsible for the attacks and the ultimate demolition of the masjid. The Muslim community reconciled to the reality because right since 1980s, Muslim leaders had talked in terms of respecting the Supreme Court judgment. Maybe they were very confident that they had all the papers in place. Maybe they had great faith in the judiciary and its fair play. When the result came, they were disappointed, undoubtedly disappointed, but in a great show of respect for the judiciary and respect for the idea of India, the Muslim community accepted the Supreme Court judgment. Their task became a bit easier because of one particular sentence by the Supreme Court in its judgment of the Babri Masjid case, where the Supreme Court talked in glowing terms about the Places of Worship Act 1991, under which all places of worship were to be retained in their original character as it stood in 1947, August 15th, on the independence of India, and no change of character of any place of worship was possible. The only exception was made in that act was Babri Masjid. So if there was a temple in 1947, which was built after demolishing a mosque, the temple had to stay at that particular place. If there was a mosque which was built after demolishing a temple, the mosque was supposed to stay. Same for a gurudwara, church, and so on for all places of worship. The sole exception, as I said, was Babri Masjid. So people thought, with the judgment of the Babri Masjid by the 5-judge bench of the Supreme Court, all the talk of other mosques being turned into temple or all the demands on other mosques would be laid to rest, and there will be a finality to a chapter on communal antagonism, mutual distrust, and so on. Unfortunately, their faith proved unfounded. Within a few months of the Supreme Court judgment, in which the court talked in high terms about the Act of 1991, and held it almost as a part of the essential nature of the Constitution of India, petitions began to be filed against various mosques across the country. There were petitions filed in Kashi Vishwanath against Gyanvapi Masjid, and then there were petitions filed for Krishna Deva temple in Mathura against Shahi Eidgah. Today there are 15 petitions against Kashi Mosque and 12 against Shahi Eidgah in Mathura. When these petitions began to be filed at lower levels of judiciary, usually at the district level, it brought back memories of all the slogans in the run-up to the demolition of Babri Masjid. I was in Noida in late 80s, early 90s, pursuing studies at that time, when almost every evening we had the mortification of witnessing a supposed peaceful rally by volunteers of Bajrang Dal and Vishwa Hindu Parishad, wherein they would talk of raise two slogans almost every evening. One was their favorite, Musliman ke do hi stan, Qabristan ya Pakistan. There are only two places for a Muslim. Either you go to the graveyard or to Pakistan. It didn't matter to those raising that slogan that Muslims of India had emphatically rejected the notion of theocratic Islamic Republic of Pakistan in 1947 by opting for a pluralist democracy of India. The other slogan which was raised, and that was not just in Noida or Delhi at that particular time, it reverberated across Ayodhya, Faizabad, and other areas in the vicinity, where these supposed volunteers were known to say, Ayodhya to sirf jhaki hai, Kashi Mathura baki hai. Ayodhya is merely a trailer. Kashi and Mathura are still left. Not many took them seriously. In fact, the BJP leader L.K. Advani, who rose to be our deputy prime minister, was at pains to say more than once that if the Muslim community were to agree to surrender Babri Masjid, he would make sure that no demand was made for Kashi's Vishwanath temple or Mathura's Krishna Deva temple. What the innocent people who believed in the idea of India and pluralist democracy, people across religions, whether they were Hindus or Muslims, what they did not realize, 80s, late 80s, and early 90s was a time of prolific returns for a politician. You just had to sow the seed of hatred, and you are sure to reap a windfall, a plant or a tree that will continue to yield fruits for years to come. So it turned out. When L.K. Advani led the Rath Yatra for the Ayodhya temple, guess who was the man who was his chariot? It was none other than our present Prime Minister, Narendra Modi. The plant, the seedling which was sowed by Advani, the fruit of that has fallen in the lap of Narendra Modi today. And what started with Ayodhya is not likely to end anytime soon. We talked briefly about 15 petitions against Gyanvapi Masjid in Varanasi or Kashi. The story of in Varanasi, which is unfolding before our eyes, is starkly similar to what happened with Babri Masjid in 1949. That time also, a lower division judicial officer and administrative officers had united to make sure that the idols stayed placed in the masjid and the namaz was stopped. In the case of Gyanvapi, some women, including a woman from Delhi, they said that they would like to worship at Shringar Gauri temple at the Gyanvapi Masjid. And they also claimed that there was a Shivling at the wuzukhana or the halls of the masjid. And lo and behold, their prayers were granted. A survey was ordered. The halls was cordoned off, just as the chabutra of Babri Masjid was cordoned off first and foremost. At the second stage, like it happened with Babri Masjid in 1986, the Hindu worship was allowed in the basement or cellar of Gyanvapi Masjid. And then we have the statements of the Mahant of Kashi Vishwanath Mandir, who said that there was never any problem for women to worship Shringar Gauri at the time of Navratra or even otherwise. And it was all a political tool meant for the advancement of a certain political party in 2023, 2024, just as it was in the 80s and in 1992. In Mathura also, similar noises have been made, and the UP Chief Minister even banned the sale of meat and eggs around the temple in Mathura. The idea was to tell the Muslims, you don't belong here. Your food habits don't belong here. Your past does not belong here. And when the past is not there, the future cannot be there. It is very similar to what M.S. Golwalkar had preached in the 30s when he talked of his concept of Punya Bhumi and Pitra Bhumi. For Golwalkar, a person could be an Indian only when he was born in India and his sacred land lay within the geographical confines of India. If somebody was born here and his ancestors were born here too, but his sacred land lay outside India, he could stay here at the sufferance of the majority community, but he could not ask for equal rights at any stage. Fortunately, the residents of Mathura across religious barriers saw through it and they rallied behind their Muslim brothers. The mosque stays as does the temple. But what do you say of the right wing, which has tasted blood after the Supreme Court verdict of 2019? The Babri Masjid verdict emboldened all these right wing goons that they could get away with attack on any house of worship of another community, maybe even its demolition, and the law will fail to catch up with them. It was not just what the Supreme Court said in 2019 November. It was also a few months later what the Special Court of the CBI did when talking of the accused of the Babri Masjid demolition. All of them were supposedly acquitted because there was not enough evidence against L.K. Advani, Joshi, Uma Bharti and company about the demolition of Babri Masjid in 1992. Earlier, the UP Chief Minister Kalyan Singh had got away with a mere tap on the knuckles by the Supreme Court. He was the Chief Minister who had promised security of the masjid at the time of Kar Seva and later on also. And he was the Chief Minister when the Babri Masjid was demolished. All that he got as a punishment for not respecting his word in the Supreme Court was a 1 day imprisonment. It sent a message to everybody that no matter what you do, the law will be with you. More so, when we had the Chief Justice of India, Justice Chandrachud, about 2 years ago, observing, while talking of Places of Worship Act, that the ascertainment of the religious character of any place of worship or monument is not prohibited by the Act of 1991. People got the hint. More so, judiciary at the lower level, judges were happy to admit petitions against various houses of Muslim worship. It was not confined only any longer to Mathura or to Kashi. Petitions were filed against the mosque in Allahabad, which was subsequently demolished, supposedly as part of a road widening scheme. Then petitions were filed against Tilewali Masjid in Lucknow. Then petitions were filed against Shamsi Jama Masjid in Badaयूं. Similar petitions were filed at a couple of places in Madhya Pradesh, notably Kamal Bakhsh Masjid in Dhar district. Petitions were filed against similar dargahs in Gujarat, mosques in Haryana, in Rajasthan, even in Karnataka and Maharashtra. It seemed petitions against mosques were the new uniting factor in contemporary India. Judges at the district level and even at the High Court level were happy to admit these petitions, despite knowing that under this Places of Worship Act, the character of any place of worship could not be changed, no matter what it was pre 1947. If in 1947, at the time of India's independence on 15th August, a place was a mosque or a temple or a gurudwara or a church, it had to stay in that condition. They were again probably emboldened by the observation of the Chief Justice of India. Unfortunately, we as believers in the idea of India, and I'm not talking only of the Muslim community, I'm talking of all people across religions who believe in the idea of India, who abide by the Constitution of India, who hold the Constitution in highest esteem, were in for a greater shock. It was not only legal battles which were sought to be played out in the courts, in the legal arena, against various mosques and dargahs. Some right-wing people went a step further. They started attacking, demolishing, even burning down Muslim houses of worship. We had this sad spectacle in February 2020, almost 4 years ago to this day, when 19 mosques were attacked in northeast Delhi, less than 10 kilometers from the Parliament of India. A mosque, followed by another mosque, followed by another mosque, and a couple of dargahs. They were all attacked. In many cases, saffron flags were planted on the domes or minarets of those mosques, as well as the picture on the cover of my book also shows, being Muslim in Hindu India. That picture is from Northeast Delhi Mosque, from Ashoknagar area only. Importantly, when these attackers came to mosque, they were armed with tridents, with iron rods, in some cases with cylinder bombs as well. And before demolishing a mosque or trying to set it to fire, almost inevitably they raised one slogan in Hindi. Har masjid Babri banegi, मुल्ला की मस्जिद तोड़ दो, एक मस्जिद और तोड़ दो. They had clearly taken their inspiration from the 1992 demolition of Babri Masjid. So 19 mosques and dargahs were demolished or attacked or partially damaged in those attacks. Most of those mosques were rebuilt, some immediately, others took a year, maybe even more than that. Interestingly, in the same area, an attempt was made to reprise Babri Masjid all over again. There was a mosque which was initially burned down, and then an idol of goddess Durga was placed at the threshold of the mosque. The police ordered a status quo to be maintained, so no person could go inside the mosque, even the muezzin or the imam, to offer namaz or to give a prayer call, that is the azan. Nobody was allowed to come and worship Durga's idol either. It was starkly similar to what had happened to Babri Masjid in 1949. Except this time, better sense prevailed upon some locals, and with the help of Jamiyat Ulama Hind and some local Hindu residents, the Hanuman flag mounted on the minaret, was respectfully taken away, as was the idol of Durga, and Masjid began to be first cleaned, and then the rehabilitation and everything started. It took more than a year and a half, but in 2021, Ramzan, the masjid was ready for worship again. Again, if anybody thought that the attacks on these places of worship would be confined to Northeast Delhi and one of pogrom or targeted violence, he was wrong. In Alipur in Delhi, in Bijwasan in Delhi, and in the supposedly middle class hub of Dwarka, mosques were repeatedly attacked. At that time, the Delhi Commission for Minorities chairman Zafrul Islam Khan was pretty active, and he was able to record these things through his statements to the media and through his later findings, where he talked of these things. But our media, by and large, preferred to ignore it. The message was again very similar to what had happened with the lynching incidents in the country. When Akhlaq was lynched in September 2015, there was an outpouring of anguish and anger in the media. It was covered widely on the front page of every newspaper. But after Akhlaq's subsequent lynchings continued to get lesser and lesser space. And by 2020, we came to that level where the lynching of a Muslim did not make any news. Similarly, when the Babri Masjid was demolished in 1992, it made banner headlines in all newspapers across the country, irrespective of their language of publication. But when attacks were made on Bijwasan Mosque or Alipur Mosque, no newspaper deemed it wise to even devote a single column to the incident. Then there were attacks on Muslim prayers itself. After conquering mosques or attempting to conquer mosques, there were attempts at negating Muslim attempts to offer prayers in a public space. Now, offering prayers in a public space, whether you're Muslim or a Hindu or whatever religion, is always fraught with danger unless you take special permission from the local administration. In Gurgaon, in the neighborhood of Delhi, which falls in the state of Haryana, Muslims over there had taken special permission from the government, from the local administration, and it had been decided that 137 sites were there where Muslims could offer Friday prayers. Unfortunately, many newly fangled Hindu organizations objected, and that number of 137 was reduced to 73. Then it came down to 45. Then it came down to 37. Then to 21. Finally, only to 16 places. At a number of places, despite the administrative permission, the prayers were disrupted. At one place, a BJP leader, Kailash Mishra, and a firebrand right-wing man who claims to be a priest of Dasna temple, Yati Narsingh Anand, and his companions went to Gurgaon and they desecrated the prayer spot. At another place, loud music was played to make prayer impossible. Contemporary India is finding new ways of making Muslim prayer almost an impossibility. It's not confined to petitions about Gyanvapi or Shahi Idgah or Shamsi Jama Masjid or any other mosque. It's widespread. The most telling example of this being an attack on the Constitution of India, on the confluence of communities in India, are the repeated attempts to designate dargahs across the country. Now, dargahs for centuries have had a confluence or congregation of people across religions. We have so many dargahs where our Hindu brothers are in the management committees. Some of them are even the presidents of those management committees running the dargahs. And these dargahs are frequented by people of all religions, not just Muslims or Hindus, but even Sikhs and Christians and so on. In fact, in Punjab, we have a number of dargahs which are run by Sikh brothers, and there are very few Muslims over there. Yet, in recent times, attempts have been made to attack various dargahs in Karnataka and Gujarat, in some cases successfully so, particularly in the Bharuch district of Gujarat. In other cases, certain dargahs have been demolished in Uttarakhand because the local BJP government claims that these were built on encroached lands or land meant for forest or public use and so on and so forth. What is never clarified is all those laws about urban landscape came up after India's independence in 1947. And almost all these dargahs came up some 300 to 800 years ago. Yet nobody has questioned, and goes on. The final indictment of that politics is the recent attempt, rather demand, to hand over Ajmer Dargah to Hindus because they believe that there was a Hindu temple over there too. And the same thing for Dhai Dinka Chopra over there, which is claimed to be a Saraswati Mandir in the past. No evidence is shared about the existence of a temple. None is deemed necessary. We had this hilarious incident in Badayo where two men, both called Agarwal, approached the court asking Shamsi Jama Masjid to be handed over to them because it was a Shiva temple in the past. One of them said that Muslims demolished the temple and constructed the mosque. The other man in his petition said, no, the original temple stays over there and the Muslims have merely restructured it. Now, despite the fact that the petitioners themselves do not know what they are asking for, our courts have been very happy to admit those petitions. Again, they are getting their clue from the Supreme Court of India and from the observation of the Chief Justice of India that any place of worship and its character can be ascertained, and the Places of Worship Act of 1991 in no way prohibits something like that. It is for a Muslim today and for all those who believe in the Constitution of India and swear by pluralist democracy, it appears a no-win situation today. Because when you go to court, you're not likely, or you're at least not confident of getting justice. And if you don't go to court, the matters still go out of hand. We got proof of that when the special CBI's special court found nobody guilty of demolishing Babri Masjid. Advani, Joshi, and Uma Bharti were honorably acquitted in the case, and no Muslim organization deemed it necessary to file a review petition or to file a case with the Supreme Court against this judgment of CBI. The community by then had lost hope in the judicial system of the country. They believe that no matter what you do, what evidence you have, and we had plenty of evidence in the case of December 6, 1992 demolition of Babri Masjid. It was a televised spectacle. Ultimately, there will be some loophole in the law which would be used to protect those who attacked the mosque or demolished a mosque or demolished a dargah or a madrasa and so on. This situation today is alarming. I say it with a degree of responsibility because when the country's largest minority loses confidence in the country's method of giving justice, this is cause for concern. More so when it is the same community which had for last 40 years reiterated that they will accept the verdict of the Supreme Court in the Babri Masjid case and went on to back up their words with their action. I invite you all to go back to the evening before the Supreme Court delivered its verdict on, I think, 8th November 2019, when Muslim leaders of virtually all political parties and Muslim organizations were gathered with the Home Minister of India and with Mr. Doval, and they all assured him of their help in maintaining peace, law, and order, and telling the community to respect the Supreme Court's verdict. They were representatives of Jamaat Islami Hind, they were representatives of Mushawarat, they were representatives of Jamiat Ulema Hind, besides sundry other organizations. And they proved as good as their word. They respected the Babri Masjid verdict, and they happily quoted the observation of the Supreme Court with respect to Places of Worship Act of 1991. What has happened after 2019 is a betrayal of India's largest minority. The petitions today are not for a particular mosque or a particular madrasa or a particular dargah. These are petitions for disrobing India of its soul, depriving our pluralist democracy of its lifeline, which is the Constitution of India. It is today incumbent on every one of us, every citizen of India, to stand up to be counted, to raise our voice, to make sure that through all peaceful means available, with the judiciary, with the administration, with political parties, the political system as such, and even the so-called media of India, and I use the word so-called media rather than Godi media, that somehow or the other, we stand up to be counted and protect not just the letter but the spirit of the Constitution of India. A law is as good as it is followed, as long as its spirit is followed. The Supreme Court of India seems to be giving a long rope to the central government to state its stand on the same act, which was passed by the Narasimha Rao government and which was opposed by the BJP at that time. Today, the same BJP is in power today. So you can understand what will be its stand in the Supreme Court if ever it has to take one. And if it doesn't have to, as it looks likely, with many of the MPs of the ruling party raising a clamor for repealing the act altogether, the day may not be far when the cushion of Places of Worship Act may not be available to all of us here. And if that be the case, imagine what will be the fate of countless mosques, madrasas, dargahs, and even temples of Haryana and Punjab. Where will it all end? Because we seem to have opened a Pandora's box. The only thing from which is available from here is oblivion. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ziya Sahab. It is really very depressing. Nonetheless, we have to keep on raising the issue. Let us hear our concluding remarks by Rashid Saab. Rashid Gadwai Saab, I hope you are. Yeah, Ji Janab.
Yeah, I'm there. Ah, uh, जी, thank you, Ziya Us Salam Sahab, and thank you, organizers, for hosting such a, I won't say eye-opening, but it's a very in-depth and a very academic, very factual kind of discussion on a very sensitive issue, and that has a lot of implications, not for today, but in time to come, not a particular community, but the entire nation, that is India, a very pluralistic society, that constitutional mechanism, rule of law, and lot of issues. I have no disagreement whatsoever in what my friend Ziya Us Salam has mentioned, and I must. And of course, the opening remarks that was made by another friend of mine, Mr. Anand Mishra, whom I have known for years. One thing I want to tell you, friends who are there, who may not be knowing us, in a very personal matter, that Mr. Ziya Us Salam's, writings I've been reading, and he is very, very. There's one word he had used about mirror part. So he has shown mirror to many communities, including Muslims, in his writings. For instance, his book on madrasa education, etc., and of course, role of women in Masjid, etc., are also very critical of the way some of Islamic societies are. Have been practicing Islam, and so he is a very brave person. I admire him, and I wish I was like him. I had that kind of courage of conviction to say things, call a spade a spade. And in this today's evening conversation, he has portrayed a very, I would say, grim picture, and but a very true picture as well, of what's happening and how things are changing and changing very fast. And as he had himself said, there is very little solution that we have. I'm sure many of you would want to, question him, make comments about his observations. But before I hand over this floor to you, I just want to make few things. Is that, I mean, while I'm not taking away anything from what Mr. Jausalam has said, there is also what I keep saying about India, that whatever you say about India, the opposite is equally true. The fact of the matter is, all those right-wing forces, etc., are trying very hard to change rules of the game, and have their own agenda, and they have a very strong sense of purpose. It is for the beginning from 100 years from now onward, they've been working, and they're very methodical about it. It is just that they could not get upper grip on the on politics of India, and but they continued with that sense of purpose, continued with 137 organizations working with a lot of dedication and effort, and finally, they seem to be getting some kind of upper hand and getting a dividend, while the other side is absolutely, I would say, fragmented and does not have a sense, any sense of purpose or energy or a fighting cause. You look at elections in India, both 2014 and 19, BJP got 31% of votes, and in 2019 they got 38% of vote. So if you look at whichever way demographically, they have not been getting support of 50% of voters of the majority community. And it is also a failure of our opposition, which is, of course, always loves to, cry foul and accuse BJP and, of course, Sangh Parivar and right wing of doing a lot of wrongs. There is an element of truth in it, but what are they doing? How are they there on the ground? I'm reminded of one incident that had happened during 1947, when Mahatma Gandhi, when he was there at Naukali and he returned to Delhi, and he came to know there were a lot of riots were had taken place in Delhi, brutal riots, and many lives were lost. So there was one Gandhian disciple of Mahatma Gandhi, Subhadra Joshi. So he called Subhadra Joshi. He was there in that Kingsway Camp Hospital, and he had said that he asked Subhadra Joshi. He asked her, Mahatma Gandhi asked Subhadra Joshi, कि सुना दिल्ली में बड़ा कत्लेआम हुआ. How many people were killed? So Subhadra Joshi was a very distinguished parliamentarian and a senior Congress leader later on. She said, Bapu, I have no idea, but I believe maybe 1,000. Then Gandhiji asked, Gandhi said, okay, so how many of them were Congress? Mind you, my friends, that time Congress was a very dominant political force. He said, how many Congress people lost their lives? Now it was turn of Subhadra Joshi to be very sheepish, and she said, I don't think so. I don't think anybody died. And then Gandhiji got very angry. He said, we fought against the British. We did not bother about, that the bullets that they were firing or the all kind of atrocities they were committing. And when it comes to independent India, no congressman could save life of a single person, victim who were killed in Delhi. And Subhadra Joshi had no answer. She walked away. Friends, this is a problem and a plight because the fragmented opposition, which has, so to say, numerical strength, and of course it applies to citizens, journalists, academicians, all kind of people, including me and my friend Anand Mishra and several others. We are not organized, we are not assertive, we are not being able to express. There is a lot of silence, and we think nothing will happen to us, and this is a problem. I think there is also a big problem structurally because we have copied, Westminster model of parliamentary democracy, where there is a lot of emphasis is there on propriety. Whereas in Indian context, the way elections are fought and the way entire politics is conducted, the entire focus is on legality of it. As Lalu Yadav had famously said, I have seen football ground, polo ground, hockey ground, but what is this moral ground? So this absence of this moral compass in political sphere is something very disturbing, and it doesn't agitate. That's why we have defections, we have a very corrupt electoral system, and that is affecting even this grave matters of rule of law and constitutional democracy and all, because we lack this kind of assertiveness. I wish I had something more positive to say, but this is indeed a grim scenario, grim situation. But it's not that all is not lost. If uh, Indians who believe in the idea of India and believe in constitutionalism, rule of law, so to say secularism, not the way secularism opposition practice, but the real true spirit of secularism, there are a lot of things can be retrieved, can be put to course. It's not an easy way out. In To conclude, I would say that Ziya Us Salam, please continue your good work, write more, and continue to enlighten us. Even if you end up provoking and you making us very sad in a place where I am, in India late evening, and where I would not have a very good sleep. But then this is what society is all about. Is a struggle. There was never a happy time any time, at least in my age. I think society always had numerous challenges, and this is one challenge where we don't see light of the day, but it will come, because after all we have survived aftermath of partition, and all these things have happened. So with this I would end. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rashid Saab. Thank you, all speakers. Before we move on to question and answer session, this is the coming Saturday's announcement. Dr. Hilal Ahmed of CSDS, which is the very famous Center for the Study of Developing Societies in Delhi, is going to talk on a brief history of the present Muslims in New India. So basically, it is a continuation of what Ziya Us Salam Sahab has spoken today. So we will hear more on this similar subject. And so over to Dr. Rafat Hussain for moderating the question and answer session. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Aziuddin. And thank you to all the speakers, Ziya Us Salam Saab, Anand Mishra Saab, and Rajit Gadwai Saab for a wonderful session. So question and answer session is open now. You can raise your digital hand or put your question or comment in the chat box. So let's see. Okay, Nazir Ahmed Saab, raise a digital hand.
Thank you, Ziya Us Salam Sahab, for your incisive and penetrating insights. My question may cause a sense of unease and consternation amongst this distinguished audience, but it needs to be asked. Kashi, Mathura, and Ayodhya were not religious issues. They were political issues with legal ramifications. There was a time window in the 1980s when the Muslim leadership could have handed over these three sites as, let's call it, a supreme act of profound love towards our Hindu brothers and sisters. The trajectory of Hindu-Muslim relations in India would have been very different. Ayodhya, Kashi, Mathura could have been handled as local issues, but they were magnified by both sides as national issues. The Babri Masjid issue was successfully weaponized by Advani. It was a cataclysmic political shift. BJP triumphed and the Muslims and the Christians suffered. Even now, should the Muslim establishment in Uttar Pradesh muster the spiritual courage to offer the two sites in Kashi and Mathura as gifts of love, not as a consequence of mandatory legal edicts from the Supreme Court, it may help prevent a genocide in India as is happening in Palestine. My question to you, sir, is this. Is there any such move on the part of Uttar Pradesh Muslim religious and political leadership? And are you, sir, as a respected and influential journalist in India, doing anything to transcend the Masjid Mandir dialectic and call for, as I have termed it, a supreme act of profound love towards our Hindu brothers and sisters? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I have answered your question in other words during my talk, but I'll take the liberty of taking you back in time a little bit. When the Kashi Vishwanath temple was built and when it was demolished and so on, and same for Mathura, if you permit me to go back in time to the 16th century, the land for Kashi Vishwanath temple was given by the great-grandfather of Aurangzeb, that was Jalaluddin Akbar. And the temple was built under the supervision of Raja Todarmal. And the lease was subsequently renewed by each Mughal emperor, including Aurangzeb. What had happened in 1669, which led to the unfortunate demolition of the temple, was the political realignment of forces after Shah Jahan was virtually forced to cede the throne to Aurangzeb. Aurangzeb was at war with all his brothers, the most notable one being Dara Shikoh. And there were voices being heard that the Zamindars and Brahmins of Banaras were in favor of Dara Shikoh. And he was the one who had given a patta also, which was a land document to them for that particular area around Kashi Vishwanath. He had renewed it. So Aurangzeb, in a bid to take on his brother, he killed all of them who supported Dara Shikoh and demolished the temple. Now, if it were a case of just, God forbid, a religion-based desecration or demolition of a temple, then the same Aurangzeb would not have given grants to temples in Assam, in Gujarat, in Rajasthan. In fact, right opposite the Red Fort in Delhi, he had Gauri Shankar Mandir as well as Digambar Jain temple. They stayed. When Aurangzeb became the emperor of the Mughal Empire, and I don't use the word India, there were tens of thousands of temples in India. Some 50 years later, in 1707, when Aurangzeb breathed his last, almost all of those temples, barring less than 10, were in existence at that time as well. And during his prolonged struggle in the Deccan with the Marathas and others, no temple was demolished. The action in Mathura as well as in Banaras was due to political realignment and basically the support which the locals over there gave to Dara Shikoh. Now coming to what you said, indicate that shouldn't the Muslim communities have shown generosity of spirit and handed over the 3 sites to the Hindu brothers? This is a great suggestion in isolation. But you must understand the politics playing out at the street level. There was no attempt made to have a dialogue without precondition by either side. I don't say only the Hindu side, I'm saying the either side. How do you negotiate or you show generosity of spirit to hand over a particular temple to the opposite side when all that you hear on the streets of UP, Bihar at that time was Ayodhya to sirf jhaki hai, Kashi Mathura baki hai. So where was the attempt made to have a negotiation, peaceful settlement? You must go back in time to 1984 when Ram Janam Bhoomi Mukti Yagna Samiti was formed. It was formed before the 1984 elections. The idea was always political. Aurangzeb, in his political wisdom or lack of it, demolished the temple in Varanasi as well as Mathura. Similarly, the right-wing forces got their acts together before the elections in 1984-89. They were not peaceniks looking for a peaceful solution at any stage. And even supposing, and this is a big if, today there was an attempt made to hand over the 2 mosques in Mathura and Varanasi. First of all, who is authorized to hand over these 2 mosques and to whom? Is there one particular Muslim leader, one particular party, one particular Hindu organization? Who owns what? The land deed of Kashi temple was last given away by Dara Shikoh. And then there is another temple in Kashi, Jangam Mutt, for which the land was given away by Aurangzeb, and the land deed is still in possession of the Hindu community, and the temple is still functioning, worship goes on, and everything. Now, who will be the representative of the other community? Muslim community as well as the Hindu community? That is a hypothetical question. The other question is, even supposing we had agreed and found a solution to these 2 contentious mosques and temples, there are already petitions about a number of mosques about which I talked very briefly about Allahabad Mosque, Lucknow Mosque, Badaयूं Mosque, and mosques in everywhere. In Delhi alone, 142 mosques are being targeted. Qubbatul Islam Masjid was also targeted at Qutub Minar. Where will it all end? You give 2, they ask for 20. You give 20, they ask for 200. All that I want is a solution under the Constitution of India, under the rule of India. I don't think it's an unfair demand to wish a solution according to the Constitution of the land.
Thank you. Next person is Dr. Fazal Khan.
Actually, my question is more directed to Rashid Kidwai Saab. He may not be the first one. I have heard from many politicians that BJP share of vote is 31 and then 39 or 36%. That may be true, but that is a myth, because that's the political vote is 31 or 36% simply because other side in opposition is Akhilesh Yadav or Mamata Banerjee or Lalu Yadav. Just think about it, that if Akhilesh Yadav was not Yadav, he is Akhilesh Siddiqui or Kidwai. Do you think that Kidwai or Siddiqui would get the same vote that Akhilesh Yadav is getting? I think that BJP political vote may be 39%, but BJP liking in people's mind, or you can say other way, that hatred for Muslims in non-BJP voters is so deeply ingrained that there is a wrong calculation about BJP's vote share. That's a political vote share, but mind is there also. Could you make a comment on that, please?
Well, Mr. Khan, you are, of course, within your rights to make this observation, and you have a point also. I'm not denying that particular thing. What I'm saying is, as Ziya Us Salam in this presentation had said, that when 1984 election took place, and when Rajiv Gandhi's Congress, after Indira Gandhi's assassination, swept polls, and BJP ended just getting just two seats, and then they thought of, this started thinking out of a box. As you know, that then BJP was formed in its present avatar. It was formed after 1980 elections. So the first election, as we say, and they thought of this thing. And mind you, this was not an easy task to embark on a political agenda that had very few takers. That right wing was not considered as a very fashionable thing, even among the majority community, and they struggled. And now I was making a limited point in the context of, if you look at Bengal elections, where Mamata Banerjee managed to get over 50% of majority community votes, and in turn, she got 80% or 88% of votes of the minority community, and a result that she was able to beat the BJP. The problem with Akhilesh Yadav and Congress and several other parties in North India is that they are not able to get even 15-20% of the majority community votes. And that is in spite of the fact, since I have done a lot of academic work on the Congress, which says in its resolution in 1999, when Sonia Gandhi was Congress president, that Hinduism is a sole guarantor of secularism in India. With this kind of formulation, if it is not been able to strike a repo, and a lot of votes get divided. So therefore, there is a reason for it to deliberate upon, because the BJP has its agenda, political agenda, in terms of all this, what we call it, Hindu-Muslim narrative, 80-20 or whatever. They are very clear-headed, and that is, they have an entire ecosystem which is helping them, feeding them, and they're able to advance it. There's a lot of infiltration in bureaucracy, even in lower ranks of judiciary, etc., and that is bringing them dividend. The other side is so disorganized. I mean, we covered Muzaffarpur, Muzaffarnagar riots, which happened when Akhilesh Yadav was chief minister, and Jain Chaudhary, and even that time I think Ajit Singh was also alive. There was no effort to engage some kind of peace process at the ground level between so to say, Muslims and Jats, who were having a lot of social tension. So this absence, they were just, not doing anything at all. And that resulted in a lot of success of BJP and right wing in Western Uttar Pradesh. And today is also that is the situation. So the lazy kind of politics being practiced by the opposition is also helping the BJP and the kind of right wing agenda, because I mean, I have no hesitation in saying that Indians majority community continues to have a very I would say I wouldn't say progressive, but they have a very liberal attitude of things. It is just that there's a lot of trust deficit between communities, and for which Muslim communities also, maybe even if it's 10%, they are also responsible for it. And there are no forums. Why Mahatma Gandhi or Jawaharlal Nehru were very successful? Because they had this kind of moral courage, and with that moral courage, they could do this. And today, what we see in opposition, is absolute lack of moral courage. They would want to become BJP if given a chance. And we have seen in successive elections, whether it was Kamal Nath in Madhya Pradesh or several other places, that they're trying to B team, they're trying to ape what Mr. Narendra Modi or BJP is doing.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Thank you. The next person is Dr. Iltifat Hassan.
Thank you. I have a very simple question. I heard that a mosque in Badaयूं, where I was born and raised, is also now in contention. Can somebody tell me which mosque is it? It's not the Jama Masjid, or is it?
It is the Shamsi Jama Masjid.
Really? That
Yeah.
mosque is 500 years old.
No,
So it-
not 500 years old. It was built in 1223.
Right. Okay.
Almost 1,000.
Thousand years. Thank you so much. Just wanted to know if that mosque was in
Thank
contention.
you.
Glad to hear that.
Okay, thank you. Amir Bhai.
Thank you. Just
Dr.
a point
Ziya,
that the mosque in Badaयूं was built by Shamsuddin Al-Tutmish, and when he was governor of Badaयूं, Badaयूं happens to be my town also, where I was born in Seswani, Badaयूं. So it is distressing that is one of the mosques on the list. The picture portrayal which Ziya Us Salam Saab has drawn about the situation in India is depressing. And the problem, as I say, it is not the mosques so much, and which mosque. It is a tool which is being used by the ruling party to stay in power, because even if you yield 5, 10, 20 mosques, there's no end to it. As long as this formula works, as long as it brings success to BJP, Modi's party, they will always find some reason to raise discard. So that presents a difficult situation. Now, Ziya Ul Islam Sahib pointed out that it is these lofty ideals, the soul of India is going to be lost. That is true, but I'm not sure how many people in the present demographic of India, maybe 5% or fewer, concerned about that. The days of Nehru and Gandhi, at least, the top was intellectual. They had a much better vision, no longer exist. So that's probably not going to help. I mean, finally, I would like to ask a question. There has been some coverage in this country, and I want to know how much it was, that construction of a huge temple in Dubai, UAE, was it covered in India, and was there any reaction, bad or good? Thank you, sir.
So it was widely covered in India. And it was appreciated in our mainstream media. In fact, even within the Muslim community, people appreciated it, but with an asterisk mark. The idea was to say that supposedly Islamic State is permitting the construction of a Hindu temple, but a secular India cannot guarantee the protection of its mosques. That was the underlying theme in the Muslim community, but it was widely covered by our media, and many hailed the Prime Minister Modi for facilitating the construction of the temple, though he may not have had directly anything to do with it.
thank you. Thank you so much. And in a chat box, there is a question from Sharmila Dewaz. What is Mayawati's role in UP politics now? Who exactly is she siding?
Sir, I used one word at the end of my initial talk, and that was the last word of my talk. The word was oblivion. That is exactly where she is headed. Because
I think, can I add one thing? I think Mayawati is a sole insurance policy that the BJP has politically in Uttar Pradesh, because she's sitting on a huge, vote bank, so to say. Even if it's a law of diminishing returns, last time she got 19% of vote. Even if it is half, it ensures that the other side, doesn't win, and that is something. So therefore, I describe her as she's the best insurance policy for the BJP.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Osama Khalidi Saab. Unmute yourself, please. Okay, I ask you to unmute. Go ahead.
मेरा नाम उसामा खालिदी है। मैं और मेरी बीवी वाइफ अभी 2 महीने इंडिया का टूर कर कर आए हैं। और अभी हम कंपेयर कर रहे थे केरला और आंध्र प्रदेश और तेलंगाना और महाराष्ट्र, बॉम्बे में भी हम 3 दिन रहे। और हमको ये जनरली एहसास है कि कोई हॉस्टिलिटी नहीं है पीपल टू पीपल लेवल पर। और ये पर्दा वालियाँ भी बड़े बड़े 4 स्टार होटल्स में रहे हैं। और अच्छे टॉप आईटी लेवल के लोग भी बहुत प्रॉस्पेरिटी एंजॉय कर रहे हैं। बॉम्बे में भी खुसूसन जो ये गल्फ के लोगों पैसा बनाकर इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं, वो एक पैरेलल एफ्लुएंट कम्युनिटी है। ये टेंशन बज़ाहिर नॉर्थ साउथ के जैसे हमको पता है कि बीजेपी कुड नॉट विन इन कर्नाटका or in Telangana or Kerala. We know the South is different, and South's GDP is higher, and educational level is higher, all indices compared to the northern states except Bengal. So can you, address this question of North, South, BJP, non-BJP, this phenomenon?
Okay,
Such
so
a simple thing,
Usama
in your
Saab,
question lies the answer.
Usama Saab, what do you wanted to ask?
अब दिस
क्या
इज
सवाल?
आपके क्या ख्यालात हैं ये
ठीक है।
सोशल लेवल पर? तो हमको तो महसूस नहीं होता साउथ में इतनी हॉस्टिलिटी। मस्जिदों का भी कोई खजिए मसले पैदा नहीं सुने में आए हमारे साउथ में, केरला में
जी
या
जी
महाराष्ट्र में भी।
अरे आपके सवाल में जवाब है। देखिए, आपने कभी तमिलनाडु में, केरला में, जिन स्टेट्स को आपने पॉइंट आउट करा एक्सेप्ट महाराष्ट्र, तमिलनाडु में, केरला में, तेलंगाना में, आंध्र प्रदेश में कभी बीजेपी की हुकूमत नहीं देखी ना।
हाँ, यही
तो
क्या
जहाँ पे
वजह
बीजेपी की हुकूमत होती है वहां
जवाब,
पे हिंदू मुस्लिम के मसले ही खड़े करते हैं। ये
यही तो
ऐसा
बात
नहीं
है।
कि भारत के जो मुसलमान हैं या भारत के जो हिंदू हैं उनमें आपस में टेंशन है, ऐसा नहीं है। पर्टिकुलरली साउथ में बिल्कुल नहीं है।
आई
नॉर्थ
एग्री।
में जो है उसका एक हद तक ओरिजिन हमारे पार्टीशन में होता है। पार्टीशन का जो रेपरकशंस हैं वो आज भी फेस करते हैं हम लोग, जो दोनों ही कम्युनिटीज के लोग। और उस सब के साथ में जो, जैसे आपने बिल्कुल सही अभी फरमाया कि the GDP of North India is less than that of South. Education level is less than that of the South. Now, when you are not earning well, when you are not educated well enough, you are more likely to fall for politics of polarization. When you have a decent job and everything is taken care of, you'll probably regard the other guy next to you as a human being.
Okay, great. Thank
There's a
you.
lot of identity politics is also there in North India, even by this thing. So that is also leading to a lot of confrontation. See, the BJP has find a very easy way out. They have developed this strong sense of cultural nationalism by changing names of cities, etc. They are catering to certain sentiments, and it doesn't cost anything if you change names of Firozabad, Shikohabad, all those places. It just require a gazette notification at the end of the matter, and people feel good about it. They get a sense of empowerment. So therefore, if you see Bengal, if you look at Tamil Nadu, if you look at Karnataka, if you look at Kerala, there is a greater linguistic affinity in terms of dress sense, in terms of language, in terms of food. It's very similar. Whereas in North, we maintained, all those, so to say, the Sherwani culture and all. It makes a very different. So we are talking about, and Muslims, many of them and other communities. This is a controversial point I'm making, but they, relate to each other. So there is a lot of we connect, we align ourselves with medieval India and medieval rulers, etc. Even if there was no direct connection, and people also see us as people who whose ancestors were, medieval rulers of India, and some of them were very ruthless. So this is a kind of lot of wrongs are actually being practiced in our society, and it's part of our collective psyche that is there.
Thank you. So
Adding
let's
to what he said, but
no,
Rashid Bhai
let's
said,
Thank you,
In-
Khalid Saab. Let's move on. There are more questions.
Sir, can I
So,
just add something to what Rashid Bhai said? In
okay,
North India, the tension also comes from the fact that Islam came here, partly at least through invaders. In South India, it was always through businessmen, through traders, through peaceful interaction with the Muslim world. Here, there was very little which was peaceful in the initial interaction between the so-called Muslim rulers and the Hindu rulers over here. The
thank you.
जरा
Thank
साहब आपकी पिक्चर नहीं दिखाई देती बार-बार आप डार्क में हैं।
you. Thank you for being.
हाँ, ये हाँ
Okay.
समझ आ रहा मेरा नाम काफी होगा जिया?
नहीं
जी,
नहीं वो तो जिया है तो रोशनी होनी चाहिए ना
Okay, so next question, point well taken, Khaldi Saab. Thank you so much. And next question is how the rank and file in Indian society affected by the Hindutva movement in their daily life. Ziya Saab, they are asking question for elites.
Again, as the gentleman said, it depends on which part of the country you come from. If you are in Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Hindutva forces will have absolutely no role to play in your life. But if you are unfortunate enough to be in UP or Madhya Pradesh or Delhi, Haryana, then it becomes a central issue. I'll tell you, on January 22, we had this Pran Pratishtha ceremony in Ayodhya for the grand new Ram temple over there. And 26 January is our Republic Day, barely 4 days later. Delhi and all the surrounding areas were decked up in saffron flags. Even on January 26, there was hardly any sign of our tricolor, our beloved national flag. Wherever one went, whether it was to a market, it was to the airport, to the metro station, to residential colonies, there were just these banners and buntings and flags of saffron everywhere. The colony in which I live, there also we had at least 32 standees of Sri Ram at different points of the colony. Around the same time, on 25th Jan, I went to Chennai and I did not find one single colony or market or metro station where these saffron flags were there or buntings were there. In that little encapsulation of Pran Pratishtha and the reaction of Chennai and Delhi lies the answer to the effect of Hindutva forces in the life of an average Indian today. In North India, it is principal, it is critical. In South, it is almost non-existent. In fact, when I did this book, Being Muslim in Hindu India, some friends of mine from the South objected that they said, we are not responsible for some of the things which are happening in North India. So you should have just said being Muslim in North India. I said, but then how do I include Gujarat? How do I include Maharashtra? And so on. That was on a lighter note, but the reality is, mercifully, so far, South India is peaceful and maintaining its communal harmony.
Yeah. Thank you. Another from by the name Anonymous. The current ruling party does not want peace. The opposition parties lack the moral courage or may be complicit with the ruling party for the fear of being politically wiped out. So the question is there a third party or a third front with whom the secular people of India can rally behind and raise their voice? If so, what is that? Third party, we already have so many parties.
Anand Bhai is saying something?
Yeah. All are welcome. Please go ahead.
A lot of questions with regard to the victory of BJP, and almost as if BJP is never going to lose election. Seems to be the emerging sentiment. But I would like to say 2-3 things. First, let us not assume the victory of BJP as the victory of only one strand of Hindutva politics. That's not the full reality. BJP is winning elections for 3-4 reasons. One is definitely this hardline Hindutva approach. Second is they have catered to large scale of beneficiary through different welfare schemes. So that welfareism in politics was not to that extent earlier, which is now, and they are reaching out to a lot of underprivileged sections who may not be ideologically very inclined towards Hindutva politics, but they are voting for them because of that reason. That's one. Secondly, today, since this day we are discussing this politics, today BJP has released a list of 195 candidates. Now see which party or wants to or should be desperate to come to power, or should be more active in releasing list of candidates, Congress or other opposition parties who are out of power for more than 10 years and 15 years. But that hunger for coming to power is not visible there. So that's also a reason. Then BJP is organizationally very strong. They have gone to Panna Pramukh to all other the things, and their workers are on the ground. So what they do after coming to power, that's a different thing. We hear one voice, which is a very loud voice, but there are multiple reasons which are contributing to their victory. If we go back in history, a little history after Indira Gandhi was so powerful, and then a lot of opposition leaders came together and they defeated her because there was some moral compass there. JP was there. Then we come in later part of Indian politics, we find Madhu Limay there. So that kind of leadership in opposition is lacking. Regional parties, we are seeing more of them become dynastic parties. So that moral strength is missing there. Then we also have to practically think that elections are no longer being decided only on issues. A lot of money power is there, which is going into winning or making elections. Since 2014, we have seen the kind of campaigning that happened, kind of publicity campaign that Modi carried on and BJP carried on. That also had an effect. Social media, the impact in elections is very visible, and BJP was quick to capture onto that social media tool early. Congress started following it late. They are now almost matching it up. And that's why we now see in social media space critical voices against BJP also, which was not there in 2015-16. So let us not define BJP's victory as a monolithic one issue based. Yes, there is a challenge. There is Hindutva politics in there. Lot of support is there. More than the support, the also noise is bigger than the actual support on the ground.
Thank you so much for your input. And okay, so I don't see any more hand raised, or Razibhai, we do have few minutes.
Can I raise my hand? No, Shrikant Chopra is there.
Oh, yeah, okay, exactly. I was about to call him. And you will give the final remarks and final question.
Chopraji.
Chopraji, go ahead, please.
Thank you for the opportunity. I think that we are looking at, I mean, not we, some people looking at this struggle between Hindus and Muslims as a religious fight or competition. But I believe that this is a reaction of the Hindu community to fight their own inferiority complex that they have developed over the last many hundred years. And they want to recalibrate and renegotiate their relationship with the minority community. And that's why you see Hindus are not against Muslims or Islam. They want their cultural identity to be identified or to be supported or acknowledged in a better way. So as long as that can be accomplished in a collaborative way, recalibrating that the relationship between the two communities, things can happen very quickly and things can be resolved very quickly. Because Hindutva is a political part of the Hinduism in a way, but we also have to consider that the focus is more cultural identity and not the religious identity alone, because Hindus are comfortable with the identity of their religion per se. Okay, they're not insecure there, It is an inferiority complex they have inbred in them for many, many years. They want to come out of that. And the concept that we had a clean slate in 47, everything is hunky-dory, there's no conflicts, we're going to be secular, we'll forget everything before that happened, did not stay long enough. After 40 years, both communities have not felt comfortable, particularly Hindus, and they want to recalibrate and restate their position. And hopefully it can be done simply, easily, collaboratively. If not, there'll be a big mess coming in a few years. Okay, but nobody wants to talk about that. Hope you can comment on that.
Ziya
So can I
Saab, you
say
want to
something?
take it or anyone else?
Can I say something on that?
Yeah.
So talking of the Hindu cultural identity, if you go back in time to the so-called Muslim rule, and it was not a Muslim rule, the rulers were incidentally Muslim because it was not Islamic rule by anybody. For instance, we had Alauddin Khilji, one of the greatest Sultanate rulers, who did not even know how to say his Friday prayers, who did not know the word Sharia, who just said, I'll rule according to my idea of justice.
That one can say about Muhammad Ali Jinnah also.
Yeah. Yeah. So when we are talking of a Hindu cultural identity, under whose reign were the Mahabharat, Ramayana translated into Persian, into Hindi, and even the Vedas? It was during the time of the Mughals, beginning with the reign of Jalaluddin Akbar, and something similar continued during the time of Jahangir and Shah Jahan. So if there was a question of taking pride in your culture and taking pride in your religion, that was the best possible time, because it was at that time Hindus were co-sharers in power. Yes, they were Mughal rulers who were technically Muslims, but their main commanders, their army commanders, their administrative guys were all Rajputs. And Aurangzeb had 33% Mansabdars who were Hindus at that particular time. So there was a lot of cultural rejuvenation of Hindu religion taking place at that particular time in history. Even our Hindu brothers used to study Vedas and Mahabharata and Ramayana, etc., in the madrasas. We would know our first president, Rajendra Prasad, he studied in a madrasa too. So there was a melting pot of culture all these years. What we are witnessing today is weaponization of a supposed cultural nationalism today for political ends. The Hindu today in the country is being told Hindu khatre mein hai. That idea of insecurity is being inculcated in the mind of the majority community, despite the fact that across India, in no state, for last 30 odd years, have we had a Muslim chief minister. We don't have a Muslim chief minister even today as I talk to you. Not in any states of the country. There is not one single MP in the ruling party who is a Muslim in Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. There is not one Muslim minister at the center. The President of India is a Hindu, the Prime Minister of India is a Hindu, the Vice President is a Hindu, the Army Chief is a Hindu, the Chief Justice of India is a Hindu. How much more can one do for cultural nationalism or cultural identity? The need of the hour is to take everybody along and not browbeat and erase other identities to the benefit of one community. After all, the Constitution, through Article 14, talks of right to equality and does not talk of preferential treatment to the majority community or indeed to the minority community.
Thank you. Okay, Atiq Saab.
Yeah, Assalamu alaikum. First, I would like to congratulate everybody for bringing up this forum, and I think it's a need of the hour, and we have been discussing in a lot of the WhatsApp group and the worship going on. But this kind of intellectual talk or a kind of knowledge being imparted was missing, because the youth, I represent youth here. I'm not that much young also, but I would like to represent youth right now, considering the major overall public. So what I would like is that because the youth is far from the what you call text, what I guess a black and white paper. They are all in Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook right now, and reading has been to the minimalistic as possible. So whether you agree or not, I don't agree, but that's the fact. So we are far from the books. I'm a vivid lover of books, but I have seen my generation and the present younger generation is away from the books. Whether they are more near to Kindles or Amazon, I don't know. But my basic question, and then I would like to congratulate everybody for the overall talk, and then what you call congratulate Ziya Us Salam for his research work, and then for his book. My question here: what would you people, as an intellectual, would like the Muslim youth at this juncture position himself, because he is not at knowledge at par with the historical background, but he is asked, he is questioned about Aurangzeb as an individual. Aurangzeb ne ये किया था, बाबर ने ये किया था, अब तुम जवाब दो. You are responsible for a present. Now, how can a youth at 18, at 26, at 28 can answer, because he is not as a reader or as Uwaisi Saab at parliament is there. So how an uneducated or I call uneducated to the IT people also, because they don't read. Sorry for that. So then how that youth is going to answer to the illiterate goons who ask about Babur, who ask about Aurangzeb every now and then what I would like to question, what I would like to know from the forum, especially from Ziya Us Islam, is that the way the Gyanvapi mosque and all, हम सब के दिल में दर्द है, सब सब अंदर हर रोज नमाज में रोते हैं, सब सब के दिल में एक तरफ से तड़प है, that I agree.
I
But
think
having that deep sorrow.
we got the question, please.
No. I would like to add one line over there. One line. So,
Getting
how
too
as
long.
an youth should be positioned right now? What we should be doing as an unitedly? What should be our role basically? Because the one unit is there who always advises you on being a religious, individually religion path, but politically, socially, and then how we should be positioned. What's your advice to the youth?
But one very small thing before I answer the gentleman's question. When I talked of no Muslim chief minister in any of these states in last 30 years, we'll have to exclude Kashmir from it. Rest of it is okay. Coming back to his question, it's important for the Muslim youth today, in fact, for every youth today, not to try to be a spokesman for the past. You cannot attempt to be a spokesman for the Mughals. Don't fall into that trap. Don't be an apologist for Aurangzeb or Akbar or anybody else.
Absolutely.
Those were different times. Those battles were different. The moral yardsticks were different. Even if Aurangzeb killed his brothers or imprisoned his brother or whatever, those yardsticks were different. There were so many such cases. If Aurangzeb demolished a temple in Mathura or indeed in Varanasi, we also have the case of Gaya, where Shashank, a Hindu ruler, demolished a Buddhist temple. So if you go back in time and try to juxtapose it with modern norms and modern rules, I think we are fighting an uphill battle. It's important to say that those were different people and we are not accountable for them. If they did good, cool. If they didn't, so be it. You cannot be held responsible for what happened in the country 500 years later. It's as simple. And as for the what you have to do today, which I keep saying to everybody, we have to build bridges across communities. This ruling party and the government, they want us to live segregated life. They want us to live in different ghettos and not to have interaction with each other. That is why there have been these attacks on dargahs, because the dargahs brought Muslims, Hindus, Sikhs, everybody together. They were in many ways a microcosm of India. That is why they are being demolished, and that is why there are petitions against dargahs too. We have to make sure that we talk to each other rather than talking at each other. Razi
well
bhai,
said.
there's one small request from my side. Can we wind up quickly? My laptop is about to go.
That was a good, really reason for you to stop now. So
I just telling you for last 5 minutes, your battery is down. Your battery is down.
yes, in 5 minutes
Radhibhai,
we
back
are winding up now.
to you.
Okay, so see, Rafat has just shifted on me, back to me. So I will have a question to all of you, or rather a comment, and you can respond if you want to. I think what Nazir Saab initially said was that post 47, I mean, everybody knows, and especially in the north and central, uh, everybody got affected and got communalized. And so, as a gesture, the remaining Muslim leadership or the intellectuals should have taken some steps to really to assure or also get assurance from both other side that we mean really we are nothing to do with this partition. We mean to settle here. We are your brother. As a token, these are certain things we can do. Or also, they should not have been, as the Jamaat Ulama recently said, I think leader of Jamaat Ulama, that why you became so openly anti-BJP when you wanted to secure your interest. You went to with communist, you went with CPM and all CPI, and but just to secure yourself in Bengal or Kerala. And you, none of you were atheists or you were not really open communists, but you went with communists very well. So what was this thing? Knowingly very well that BJP's whole background is to polarize the society. You yourself became the tool to help them polarize very well. Because Congress kept on using it. Even Samajwadis kept on using you as a vote block. So did not you yourself play a role into this communal atmosphere that the end result that you are seeing? And now we all are complaining, not a single Muslim in BJP. Of course, the Muslims don't care about you. BJP doesn't care about you to have a Muslim MP or and there are some sold out people who are just there to have their alternative voices. So we also lacked consistently. Recently, somebody wrote, probably you or somebody else, what was the Muslim narrative during all these 75 years? Do we have a Muslim narrative? The Hindu narrative was clear from the communal side. For the secular side, we all knew. But what was the Muslim narrative? Where did it come from? Was there any from Aligarh Muslim University, from Jamia, from Nadwa, from any source, even Jamaat Ulama? Where is the Muslim narrative? To be in India as an Indian equal citizen. What was the vision of Muslim thing? Anybody? कदवाई साहब आप तो बहुत कवर किए हुए थे कांग्रेस को भी कवर किया और क्या क्या किया आपने
No, I think, look, on a political term, people aspire to, get themselves elected, come to power. Man has always tried to change, face of God whenever, they've given a chance, and whenever they've been in power. It applies to all communities and faith. I was just, when Ziya Us Salam sir was speaking about 1991 bill and all, I was there in Parliament that day, and of all the Uma Bharti had made a speech. Uma Bharti was member of Parliament. I just want to quote two lines what she had said. I mean, I had mocked her at that time, but what she said it turned out to be true. She had said that I heard in childhood that pigeons fear the presence of cats. Pigeons are so innocent that they believe that the mere closing of eyes will prove to be an effective shield against cats. But that is not correct. Maintenance of status quo, as in 1947, in respect of religious places, is like closing eyes like pigeons against the advancement of cats. This maintenance of status quo of 47 will mean preservation of tension for the coming generations. I mean, I don't endorse it, but what she said is, came out to be true, actually.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so there is nothing more to say. And Ziya Saab's computer is about to go dark. So अगली बार जब आप आइए तो रात भर कंप्यूटर को ऑन रखिएगा जी. अगली बार रात भर कंप्यूटर को लगाए रखिएगा. That's what it is. And also, yeah, I mean, it was a very good session. Probably people have benefited or gained some information, or maybe to increase their frustration. Maybe there is a hope. Who knows that? But you are right, Khudai Saab, or who said that? That, look, BJP has just released 195. Rahul Gandhi is on the street, almost looks like he's about to do a revolution, so much crowd, or Tejasvi's crowd in lakhs, they're just showing the crowds. But they're not releasing their list, winnable candidates or lists. I mean, the winning party has a upper hand due to other reasons. जैसा कि मिश्रा जी ने कहा कि only Hindu-Muslim extremism is not the reason. Polarization is not the only reason. They are up to this. They want to win, and they're doing all the gimmicks.
Sir, can I say one thing over there? If it were the other way around, the media would have still called BJP smarter. They would have said Congress has played all its cards, shown its hand, and it's Narendra Modi out on the campaign trail, interacting with people at the ground level.
But you remember,
how our media projects it.
We were growing during the high days of Congress. They ruled on everything, including media and chief justices, and I mean, remember everything. Supreme Court.
Doordarshan was Rajiv Darshan in the 80s. The only problem is today all the satellite channels are Modi Darshan.
Yeah, we complain about the vice chancellors being put. We remember we created universities to put a certain student even, certain staff there, certain vice chancellor. Congress did that. So Modi is playing with the same book. Actually, is the same playbook. But Congress did not do a polarization in that way. But they had the vote in their pockets also. There's no need to polarize.
Yeah, I am always at a loss when people compare the Congress versus the BJP, and they say Congress did the same thing. Congress did the appeasement policies, but Congress never lynched anyone. Congress did not lynch people,
but
even though the Muslims were in a very good or better position under Congress, but they were never
butchered. सारी रात का डिबेट का मटेरियल प्रोवाइड कर रहे हैं. See, before no, I'm just saying something factual. Before this riot took place of what we call it Godhra, which is one-sided or genocide, that is different. Before that, I have documented there were 65 communal riots had taken place where life of over 50,000 innocent were lost. So, I mean, if you compare it to from that onwards to last 15 years or 10 years or so, that we don't have that kind of figure. So this is a statement of, I mean, as I said, nothing is simple in India. Whatever you say, the opposite is equally true. All those sort of difficult times that the citizens are facing is also true. But then to say that the past was very hunky-dory and things were very, a lot of community.
No, not at all.
Lot of disturbance.
That is also, if I might,
right, to Bhagalpur, right, to, and none of these reports were this, all the Baliana, and so many things happened.
Okay, so let me ask a question: who instigated those riots? Those who were not in power, or those who were in power?
I think I think as we blame the present regime, I think the rule of law and the person who's in who's governing has a lot of this thing. If people, I mean, if in places like PSC was responsible for in Moradabad unprovoked filing and nothing came out in the court of law and commission reports. I've gone through all commission reports, by the way.
No, I know. I'm talking about the political part.
So I'm saying who is responsible?
PSCs will always be.
It's like saying that, I can say that I'm tempted to say Rajiv Gandhi was not responsible for 1984, but would somebody believe that? So this is somebody who's there.
I would think that probably the Muslims and Hindus were moving towards assimilation before this regime came, after suffering the trauma of partition. And I think Rashid Qidwai Sahab sitting here, I mean, I don't know how he's related, but Rafi Ahmed Qidwai, Shafiqur Rahman Qidwai did a lot of good contribution to India's welfare. When Rafi Ahmed Qidwai was the minister, miraculously he solved the problem of shortage
मैंने
of
वही
maize
कहा था,
and
ये तो सारी रात के बहस के मसले हैं। फिर मैं आपसे पूछूंगा कि मौलाना आजाद, why Maulana Azad could not get, why did he elected himself from Mewat and
what we are saying
Rampur?
is the
So that time
situation
also there was
wasn't as
communalism.
dire. What we are saying, situation is not dire, so we can't be completely in despair. I think things likely, and Ziya Us Salam Sahab probably will improve.
As Ziya said, the best
Okay. आमिर भाई का जो वर्ड है आखिरी, डायर सिचुएशन, नहीं तो किदवाई साहब आप क्या या मिश्रा जी आप क्या कहते हैं कि
even though
dire
करना चाहता हूँ. One thing, we tend to look at things in black and white, while predominant matter is gray in most of the cases.
Gray.
जैसे अभी covering politics, what mesmerized me is the kind of combination of MOI that Lalu Prasad ji stitched in Bihar. So if you look at the history of communal riots there, like if you go and look Bhagalpur riot case, most of the accused from the other community are from the Y. So I mean, he created a wonder by this MOI combination. So in politics, these things will keep on happening. The root thing is that if community relations are strong, then one or the other political party will not be able to do much. And politicians are the last community from which we can hope for creating very ideal situation or state for us. I don't have great hopes from them because last 20 years I've covered most of the political parties. I've seen people changing their loyalty at the drop of a hat. So the root problem lies in also somewhere our community relationship has breached. The one or the other could be the beneficiary, some could be the major beneficiary, some could be the minor beneficiary. Somebody might be doing it more intensely to benefit more, but the solution will not come unless it is resolved at the level of the community.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I do really agree with the Ziya Saab's last sentence that we have to work across the aisle, and that is the only option we do have, at least for my perspective. Thank you so much, and we appreciate all three speakers and wonderful discussion. And of course, this is a never-ending discussion, as Qidwai Saab said. You can keep going forever.
Thank you. Let's end it here. It's more than 2 hours past, and we had a very wonderful and engaging session. Hope to see you all again and again. And please try to join coming Saturday's talk and thereafter other talks.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.